Hello and welcome to a brand new video. So by now you can probably piece together that I really enjoy buying vintage clothing. So for today's video I just thought I'd go through some of the tips and tricks on what I do and how I do it basically. So yeah, before we get started, I just want to point out that most of my experience comes from buying vintage clothing rather than thrifting. I know the title might say how to thrift, but I just thought that sounded a bit better than how to buy vintage clothing. It just rolls off the tongue a bit easier. The way I would describe the difference between vintage and thrifted is that vintage is old pieces sold by like specific shops, if that makes sense. And I feel like buying thrifted clothes is still used clothing, but it's more donated, so it doesn't necessarily have to be old, if that makes sense. I feel like the vintage scene in the UK specifically is a bit bigger than the thrifting scene. Like we don't have big shops such as Goodwill and all that stuff like they do in America. I feel like the closest thing we do have to like a designated thrifting shop is like charity shops. So this could be like Cancer Research or the British Heart Foundation, which I do actually need to start looking into a bit more, but that's for another time. But nevertheless, I feel like the tips that I will provide is pretty broad, so you could apply it to both, whether you are thrifting in shop or vintage buying and all that stuff. I also want to point out that there isn't actually specific rules you have to follow. This is just what I do personally. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1, go with an open mind. What I mean with this tip is don't have anything specific in your mind that you saw on the internet or you saw someone elsewhere. Like don't go into a shop with the idea of I want to find a t-shirt and it has all of these colors on it with this specific pattern, with this specific logo. Because 1, you're probably not going to find it, and 2, you're going to miss out on a lot of good items which you wouldn't even have looked at because you're trying to find that one specific item. You will never know what you would find and you would miss out on a good opportunity. So don't have anything in your mind and just go and have a look. There's no harm in just looking. The second tip, look at both gender sections. This goes easily with the first tip of being open-minded. Before you start saying anything, yes, I know. As a male specifically, you might not find something in your size and the fit of the clothing might sit a bit weird with some items, but there's a big but. You might actually strike gold. You might find something that you absolutely adore and you might not have even found it if you didn't decide to check the opposite gender section. So don't knock it out from your options basically. I know me personally, I've brought multiple things from the female section regardless if it's vintage or not. So yeah, give it a try. The third tip is to just slow down. I found that personally when I put music on and I start relaxing a little bit, it kind of forces me to look through everything because it just winds me down. So yeah, look through everything, look through every single item. I know it can be a bit tedious, but there's reasons for that. First reason being, you might actually completely skip through something that you would have liked and loved and worn like every day. With that, you just have a missed opportunity and you would have never seen it because you was in a rush. So just slow down and go through everything. Reason number 2, it gives you some time to actually process through what you're looking at, if that makes sense. Because when you're in a rush, you might find something that's ugly at first and just skip through it. But when you slow down, you can easily digest what you're looking at and then decide if you like it, and it might actually grow on you. So you might have just skipped an item of clothing you liked, basically. My next tip is to have a few go-to shops that you like and check them regularly. I say this because yes, sometimes they might have absolutely nothing and the stock could just be a bit so-and-so. But the thing with these places is that they only have one item of each. So when something good does actually come in stock, it's just gonna go instantly. That's why I say check regularly so you have the best possible updates and best possible chance of finding something you like before it's gone. If you're someone that likes online shopping, I highly suggest signing up to all of these websites newsletters so you know when there's a new drop and new items coming in. So yeah, and my final tip is just check different places whenever you can basically. Every shop sells different things. No two shops are the same. So you might actually find something you like. One shop might be dedicated more for t-shirts, one might be more for trousers. Just have a look. No harm in trying. And that's everything that I do when it comes to buying vintage clothing or thrifted items. It's not the end of the world. You don't actually have to follow these. This is just something that I do. The most important thing is to actually just have fun. Don't hyperfixate on something basically. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope this helped. and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.